Hey guys, Dan the Mustang Doctor, and tonight I just wanted to take you guys through the benefits of running meth on your Mustang. We're running a Snow Performance 2-stage water meth kit. It basically is set up to spray 50% water meth at a certain level of boost, certain pound of boost, and then 100% at the next phase or the next level of boost. So right now we've got the card dialed in really well. We're mainly using the water meth as a slight performance gain, but mostly a safety net, I guess, if you will, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But jumping into the performance side of it, and just to kind of describe the 2-stage Snow Performance water meth kit that we're running, is we've got it set right now to spray 50% meth at, or 50% water meth at 6 pounds of boost, and then 100% water meth spray at 8 pounds of boost. So that setup seems to work really well. It keeps the intake air temps down right where we want them, and it really ramps in the power also right where we want it. We don't really want it too early. This car is already making 900 wheel horse, so it's a little bit too much power anyways, right off the hit, so right out of a dig. So this particular structure on the 2-stage water meth kit seems to work really well when we dialed this in. But anyways, what I wanted to show you guys, we're looking at the tune file right now and taking a look at spark intake air temp, or IAT correction, versus the correction multiplier. So I'll kind of I'll step you guys through how this works and what this means. But then we're also going to take a look at 2 data logs. We made 2 wide open throttle pulls on this Shelby that we've got. It's boosted with just a Vortec blower. And again, I mentioned earlier, it's making about 900 wheel. And we made 1 hit without spraying the water meth with it shut off, and the second hit with it turned on. And I'm going to jump to that right now so I can show you guys what I mean. This particular data log right here is without spraying the water meth, and you guys can see we're 100% pedal. We're about 6,000 RPMs, and our intake air temps are 133 degrees. This was on a day where ambient temperature outside was probably about 65 and 65, and so our intake air temps are getting warm. This Vortec blower runs an air-to-air intercooler, but so it's not water to air. It's just a straight air-to-air intercooler. Again, you can see we're moving though. We're moving pretty good on this log. So we're up there. We should be pulling some air into that intercooler, but the intake air temps are after the intercooler are just still a little too warm. So this next log or next pull was running it with the water meth. So you can see, and we're even up a little bit higher in the RPM range on this one. Again, 100% pedal, so we're wide open throttle. But the intake air temps are significantly lower. It's about 43 degrees lower, which makes a huge difference. And the general rule of thumb to look at is any intake air temp that's every 10 degree increment above 90 degrees for intake air temps is going to decrease the car's horsepower by about 1%. So if you're taking a look at even just a S550, or I'm sorry, S650 Dark Horse, let's just say you're putting out 500 horsepower, a swing like this is gonna render roughly a 21 horsepower swing. So it's a decent amount of power. We're talking crank in that situation, but on the Shelby here, we'd be looking more at almost 40 horsepower. So we'd be looking at a significant horsepower decrease without running the water meth. So I wanted to point that out and just kind of show you guys that, and basically jump back over to the tune and just kind of show you guys how these 2 tables work, because a lot of guys, we don't really adjust these very often. Sometimes they need to be dialed in a bit, but a lot of guys just don't really understand how they work and what they are, because it can be a little confusing. And so if you pull up this, it's right in here, but if you pull up this IAT, we're under the, move this down for a minute, we're in the Spark tab, we're under Advanced, and most guys would just click right on the base table and say, okay, what do we got here? Well, we've got intake air temps over here, and then what in the world is this? This is not degrees of spark retard, obviously. that'd be way the numbers don't line up. It wouldn't be spark or ignition timing degrees at all. But if you notice, you've got this multiplier table in the same section. So I've got the multiplier table up over here, and basically the way this works is, the way the math works, and I'll jump over to the spreadsheet to show you guys. But again, keep in mind we've got intake air temps here. So in our particular example, without the water meth, our intake air temps were like 133 degrees. So we're right in this range here, this negative 50. So you can grab the negative 50, and these are really just mathematical multipliers. But you can grab the negative 50 and you can drop it right here. Or I'm sorry, yeah, negative 150. Nope, negative 50, I lied. Okay, negative 50. And then we've got the multiplier over here, and this multiplier, all these multipliers in the table are a multiplier of your engine load and your RPM range. So we were up in the upper range. We were under full load. So the scalars on this are probably a little bit off, but that said, we'd be up in here. So we'd have a multiplier of 0.035. So we dropped that in there. We're this particular pull without the water meth, it's pulling almost 2 degrees of timing, just because those intake air temps are up a little bit. It's not a dangerous range at all, but given the fact that ambient temp was 65 degrees, 133 degrees is pretty warm. So on a hotter day in the middle of summer, when we're more like an ambient temp of like 80 or 90 degrees, these intake air temps are going to be up there. So you don't want them in this dangerous range. And that's why, again, I think if we do the math on this range here, it's going to pull about 5 to 6 degrees of timing, which is a ton. Obviously, you don't ever want to be in that range anyways, or you'll have other problems. But that said, without the water meth, it makes a big difference. So if we jump over to the data log where we did spray, we were only 93 degrees intake air temps. And if you jump back over to the math, oops, I can jump back over to the tune file. We're 93 degrees intake air temps, so we're in this 80 range. You can see both these are 0, so we'll plug 0 into our spreadsheet, and we're at the same load range, of course. And again, you can see here it's 0, it's not pulling any timing. So that's a really optimal range to be running in. So again, thinking of which, the car is making just shy of 900 wheel, and we can run it with water meth and keep those intake air temps down right in the optimal range where the car isn't pulling any ignition timing. We're not losing any power. In fact, one could argue you're gaining almost 40 horsepower by running the water meth kit. And the flip side of it, if we don't spray or didn't run it, we'd be losing almost 40 horsepower, and the car would be pulling a couple degrees of timing and wouldn't be very safe on the engine. So I had mentioned earlier in the tutorial, or the video, I guess if you will, that I would talk a little bit about the safety net and the reason why we use it for the safety net. But again, whenever you're running really hot intake air temps, it's just a dangerous combination between ignition timing, stoic or proper fuel enrichment, I guess I should say, and really hot intake air temps. It's really a recipe for disaster as far as the engine goes, and especially when you're making this kind of power. So we really like to use the water meth kit, again, for power, but mainly for that safety net of just keeping us within the optimal temperature range for intake air temps, so that we're not dealing with any knock retard or any knock in general, so that the car would have to retard the timing. So again, a great reason really why to run the water meth kit, and not an affiliate for Snow Performance or anything, but I'd give them a huge shout out because I've used this kit now on 2 of our boosted Mustangs. One was an SN95 with a Ken Bell, and then this one is a 17 GT350 with a Vortec blower. The Ken Bell didn't have intercooler at all on it, so we really had to run the water meth kit to keep those temps down. But as I said, the Vortec setup on the GT350 runs an air-to-air intercooler. But as you guys can see, these 2 logs were from the 350. And you can see these intake air temps are significantly reduced by running by spraying the Water Meth. So again, not an affiliate for Snow Performance, but I highly recommend them because I've used them on 2 applications now and helped a few other guys dial in their cars on Snow Performance kits. And I really like the 2-stage progressive setup. And it's only like, I think it's only like $550 for the 2-stage kit. It comes with a Water Meth tank, a tank level sensor, which is really important to install, the Water Meth pump, all the plumbing you need, all the wiring you need, the digital boost gauge, which is also used as a controller for the 2-stage kit, because you've obviously got to design where you want the first stage to spray, what PSI you want it to spray at, and then stage 2, where it sprays 100% Water Meth, where you want that to spray at. And I think, if I recall, it even came with a couple different nozzles. The nozzles are designed to run just a larger or smaller amount of Water Meth in terms of percentage. It's more like you could think of it as like a jet kit on a carburetor, or even a jet kit on a nitrous application. They have, if you go to their website, they've got a like power grid per nozzle size. So you basically line up your horsepower that you're making with the grid, and then from there you use that to select your nozzle size. On the Ken Bell, I really lined that up perfectly because we weren't running an intercooler, and it was really more for overall safety in general, because again, there was no intercooler on that car. For this car, it's a big safety play for us, but we do have an intercooler, so we know that intake air temps aren't dangerously high. 133 degrees isn't really a concern. It obviously is slight concern in terms of Ford's perspective on it, because it is pulling almost a couple degrees of timing, but it's not very high when it comes to running these cars. And a lot of other guys that I've worked with that are in some of the warmer states that are running really high intake air temps. So it's not incredibly high, but it's high enough to care. And so we usually just run one of the smaller nozzles on this setup just to give it a decent spray. You might ask, why not just run the larger nozzle, especially why not just line it up to your horsepower number, and then you're on the money. One of the things that I've noticed with spraying the meth kit is you're spraying it into the intake tube right before the throttle body, but you're also almost right after the mass airflow sensor. So I've had some issues with some of the larger nozzles just making too wide of a spray, and if you don't have them angled just right, and obviously you don't want a direct shot straight into the throttle body necessarily either. I guess that probably wouldn't matter, but they say to really set it at like a 90-degree angle so it gives a nice fog spray, and the boost level just kind of draws it in real nice. So I've noticed just running a little bit smaller nozzle gives you all the benefits you would need, and you don't have to worry about that excess Water Meth getting fogged or sprayed back onto the MAF sensor. I've learned that the hard way, that doesn't work well. Your car will jerk like crazy. It won't run right. It won't accelerate right at all. And you're going to have to take that all apart and redesign it so it isn't spraying it all towards the MAF sensor. So again, just an easy solution. Just run a little bit smaller nozzle and make sure you got just the right angle on it. It's away from the MAF sensor. I guess the reason why you'd really want to line that up again on an application like this 350 is if you were really trying to take advantage of what Water Meth can really do for the power on the car. Because one of the big strategies behind running the Water Meth kits are you can run the car a lot leaner. And the saying always goes is leaner is meaner until it's not. So the leaner you go on the car traditionally, the more horsepower you can make, but the less ignition timing you can draw, and the more dangerous it can be, because you're getting leaner, and you could easily get into a major lean condition. And a lot of the concerns that a lot of guys have, rightfully so, are if the pump fails on the Water Meth kit if the level sensor isn't working and you start to run out of meth, you don't realize it, and you go to make a hit. Because a lot of times in these tunes, if you're tuning for power in this kind of application, you're leaning out the fuel enrichment to a degree where you're making the most power while you're still spraying. And basically the water meth helps richen it up a little bit, keeps those intake air temps down really cool, and keeps things safe to run leaner like that. It's very similar to a nitrous application to a degree. But the problem, as I mentioned, is anything goes wrong and the engine's gone. Because at that point you're running way too lean, and let's say the pump fails, your water meth stops spraying, you make a hit, you're at 6,000 RPMs under 100% load, and you're lean. That's not a good situation to be in, and that's going to result in a total engine failure. So I don't run them like that. I don't like to tune them like that and set them up like that unless the person I'm helping out just really wants to crank that up and they know all of the risks involved. But again, I like using the kit quite a bit just for a safety net and even to pick up a little bit of horsepower. And again, just taking a look at these numbers quick, this isn't running lean. This 40 horsepower swing is literally just keeping those intake air temperatures down. That's going to help increase your horsepower anywhere between 30 and 40 horse on the bigger applications. And again, if you're, let's just say you're running a S650 even, or a Dark Horse, or even just an FBO Gen 3 Mustang, you're looking at about a 20 horsepower swing in the horsepower range just to run like a $550 water meth kit. So easy installation, awesome product. I highly recommend them. Not an affiliate for them in any way, but I highly recommend Snow Performance. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. We'd love to talk a little bit more about it.